Well, good afternoon. I'm Reverend David. Thank you for joining me today for Disciple Time as we look at the question, who does Jesus say he is? And Jesus said a lot about who he is, and he did that by making some I am statements. And so today on Disciple Time, we're going to be searching the scriptures, particularly in the Gospel of John, and we're just going to look at who Jesus says he was through these I am statements. So there's 7 of them that we're going to look at. And my prayer is that as we look at these, we'll allow them to weigh in on the question we're trying to answer for ourselves this week of who we think Jesus is and who Jesus is to us. Well, in John 6:35, Jesus says this, I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. And I love this thought as I contemplated Jesus as the bread of life. Beyond all the Eucharistic implications, I recall the hike I went on this weekend with Lael and Draco. And one of the interesting things that happened is as we were climbing up this very strenuous mountain peak, Misery Ridge they call it, we got very thirsty. And I look back and I recall how refreshing it was to stop after about an hour of hiking up this mountain and to get a drink of water. Or those times when we fast for a whole day and we finally get to the end of that fast and we have like a nice juicy piece of fruit like cantaloupe or watermelon to end that fast. And what a wonderful, refreshing thing it is to our bodies. Well, as those things are refreshing to our bodies, I see Christ as that refreshment to our soul when we go through those periods of dryness, those periods of need and hunger and thirst. Jesus is revealing that he's the bread of life. He's the one that's going to nourish our souls and just replenish us as we're making this journey in life. And I love that. We should let that definitely weigh in on who we think Jesus is. The second statement he makes comes from John 8:12. He says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. And I thought about this. I can think of many times in my own life where I've walked in that darkness, those seasons in life that have just been so rough. I remember walking through a time like this when my mother had brain cancer, when my wife was diagnosed with Addison's, and when none of the doctors could figure out what was wrong, just walking in that darkness, and how Jesus was kind of the light that led us through that dark time. And he is. And what I love about this, it says, is whoever follows me will not walk in darkness. And even though we can be in a dark time, in a dark season in our life, we never have to be in the dark if we're walking with Christ, because he says we will have the light of life. And I love that. Let's just keep moving. He says, I am the gate in John 10:9. He says, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. And I love that from John 10:9, because if we think about the concept of Christian initiation and how we come to Christ, how we have the baptism, how we have Eucharist and confirmation, and these things that kind of mark our relationship as it transforms with Christ, and these points of the sacrament deepening our relationship. I kind of look back on my own life, and what I really like about this verse is that second sentence. They will come in and go out and find pasture. I remember who I was before I came to Christ. I remember the way I was before I came to Christ, how life was all about me. And a lot of times it's still all about me, because this is a lifelong journey and I'm just not there yet. I'm continually trying to put myself on the altar, and I'm continually trying to squirm off of it, right? I think that kind of is the way we kind of live life. It's like this constant rededication to God. But here we get this clear picture of Christ as the gate. And if we'll just go in on the other side of that gate, on the other side of establishing that relationship with Christ, on the other side of going through those steps of a Christian initiation, on the other side of that that experience of the Holy Spirit just moving in us and transforming us, there's a pasture over there that is greener and just has what we need. And I love that imagery, because Christ is that gate. And as we come to Christ and as we have that relationship established and we move beyond that, that's where we see the fruit of that relationship come to bear. That's where we see the real pasture. He opens our eyes, He opens our ears, and we begin to walk closer and closer with Him. Well, kind of in a similar metaphor, He's talking about the sheep here. In John 10:11, He says, I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And I love the imagery of Christ as my shepherd, because I walk with Draco all the time, and Draco wants to run into the street, but sometimes I got to grab his leash and pull him back in so he doesn't chase that leaf into the road and get hit by a car. And sometimes I need to lead him to the place where, like, he maybe not want to leave his toy, but there's food over here that he needs to eat before I go to work. And so the idea that, we as people, we have this limited view of life that's kind of right around us, but Christ as the shepherd sees beyond. He sees what we truly need, and He is actively, right now, here and now, leading us to that place. And He's not only willing to lead us there, but in order for us to thrive, He was willing, yes, to lay His life down so that we could have a relationship with God. I love that when I consider the question, who do I think Jesus is? Also, Jesus says, I am the resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. And yes, see, life is something interesting. The human being is something interesting. Christ was fully human. He was fully divine. In a similar way, there's a beautiful marriage taking place within us. We are a body and we're a soul. We're the combination of these things. And this verse is a wonderful verse of hope, because it tells us that when this mortal body ceases to be, and when age and gravity and sickness and everything else that plagues this fallen world claim our mortal body, that Christ has already made a claim on our immortal soul. And that gives me hope. Then He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. In John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And I love that verse, because I certainly seek to be in relationship with the triune God. And Jesus is the way. Jesus is the truth. Jesus is the life. And this verse just helps us orientate that. And I love the picture of this road and this sunset, because it reminds me a lot of the hikes that I go on, and that journey that we're on. Jesus is going to get us there. He's already laid the roadmap for us. He's revealed it in His Word. He has allowed the Holy Spirit to continue to reveal it in the tradition of the church. And as we're moving in this relationship with Christ, He hasn't left us with no roadmap, with no GPS. No, He's given us the way, and He's shown us the truth, and this is the way to life. Now, finally, He says, I am the true vine. And I like this too. He says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. And I love the imagery here, because the idea is that, as we move through Lent, we need to just get rid of the fat, get rid of the obstacles, get rid of the stumbling blocks in our life, get rid of those things that are pulling us away from God. Those are the branches we no longer need, right? And allow the Holy Spirit to work in us to bring more and more nourishment to those parts in us that are bearing fruit, those ministries that are bearing fruit. So as we remove the vines that aren't producing, that frees up that spiritual grace and energy to make us more fruitful in the things that are bearing fruit. And wow, so who does Jesus say He is? Well, He says, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the gate. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I am the true vine. So this week in Metanoia, let's see, how do we allow what Jesus has revealed about Himself there in the Gospel of John to weigh into this question we're asking this week. Who is Jesus to me? But who do you say that I am? Who do I say that Jesus is? And I hope that by looking at some of these I am statements that Christ has revealed about himself, it will help you come to a deeper understanding as you wrestle and grapple with these questions. Well, thank you for joining me for today for Disciple Time, and I look forward to seeing you next week.